Gonna make
Who dat?
sure.
Who this? Who this?
Gonna make sure that we're getting some.
Who this?
Yes, we're definitely live. I'm also going to this time maybe promote here. I'll send out a tweet telling the people in the universe that we have gone live. Which is
at everyone in the Discord.
Yeah, I'll do that.
And everyone in the other.
Excuse me. I'll send it to everyone in the universe so that everyone in the universe can experience our high-level ideas that we will talk about on the show. Since everyone can see Dave Rubin on the screen now. Excuse me. Here.
Can't wait until the Elon Musk whatever bullshit brain stuff happens and Jody can stream directly to our brains.
How do you know I'm not already doing that? What if I have the inside scoop? I have the inside scoop where I can just send the thoughts out into the world and enter people's brains. It's tons of fun.
Okay.
It's like in Star Wars.
What did I have for dinner?
Something tasty.
It was okay, actually. It wasn't that great.
Oh, goddamn. I mean, that's the key to being like a good psychic too, is to say some sort of like broad generalization where it's very hard to be wrong. But you played me like a fool, anyways.
Yep.
All right.
The real proof that I have that you aren't streaming into my brain is that I can hang up from this call.
But I know you won't because I'm psychic. All right, we're just gonna jump right into it and discuss some high-level ideas. And first, we're gonna introduce the chat. So we got Vienno, who is doubting my psychic capabilities.
I had Popeyes for dinner, and it was like the new chicken sandwich. It wasn't that good.
No, I had Subway, so I mean, I guess Popeyes is all right. I don't know how to compare those. I mean, they're both very synthetic. And we have Ken.
Ideas.
I did this specifically for Ken, actually, because Ken keeps wanting to drop these Dave Rubin jokes. So we now have a Dave Rubin appearance, and it's only fair. And we also have Elron.
Yeah, I beat both you and Vienno. I had pizza tonight, so suck on that.
Fair enough. No, it is much tastier, but I needed a bit more vegetable content. I felt lacking in the vegetable department today. I needed to round it out.
You need some fiber? you need to... Are you feeling regular there, Jody?
Or did I need to feel... I don't know. Is it, do you eat them to feel regular, or was you're feeling regular and therefore you need to eat it? I'm not sure.
No. If you're not regular, then you're not. If you don't know if you're regular.
I am medium rare.
Just eat a solid fistful of black licorice, and you'll be good for a few days.
So to jump into what we're going to be experiencing today, I want to mention two stories that have happened recently. One is, for those who don't know, Ezra Levant, the host of the main head honcho of Rebel News, Rebel Media. He was on Tucker Carlson last night, and that's probably bigger news, but we're not going to cover that here. I eventually will probably have to cover it on the podcast next week. I just figured I'd flag and let everyone know that I watched it, and it was kind of terrifying. A lot of fear-mongering about the Chinese government and that sort of stuff. But I will cover that on the podcast next week. The other thing that I want to say, so we're going through these lists. When we do these Friday streams, we've been covering a lot of the side characters, I guess I would call them. You have Ezra, the main honcho, does his own podcast. And then Sheila Gunn-Reid and David Menzies, they also have their own podcasts. And they do some of the more in-studio video type things. And Kian Bexty is kind of like another big one who's been around the longest, who goes around. But they've been filling it out with a bunch of other characters, like this fella who's on the screen with Dave Rubin called Andrew Chapados. And we'll get to him in a second. But there was another one who joined the team back in August, and I just never really looked into her. And we haven't done her videos here. Her name is Tamara Ugolino, or Ugolini, either way. She, apparently, because I looked into it because I was just curious, all her videos on Rebel's site is her going around interviewing people at various anti-mask protests all across the province, usually, of Ontario. And so we've never covered it because it's like doing that content would be just super boring. It would be all of those like going to people up on the street and being like, why aren't you wearing a mask? And they'll be like, yo, science isn't real, dog. And like there isn't much to say about that other than like make us depressed for the state of humanity. So I haven't touched any of her material, but all of a sudden I can't remember how it came up. An article crossed my path showing that there was some woman in Coburg who was fined back in June. And I saw her name as Tamara Ugolini, and I was like, oh my god, it's the same Tamara, isn't it? And so basically what happens is back in June, they had a bylaw blocking off the beach access in Coburg. So Coburg is against Lake Ontario. It's near Kingston, I think, Belleville, Kingston area. And she hopped the fence and walked on the beach and then got ticketed because of it. And for doing that, Rebel hired her. And the other thing that makes this important for now is because we're coming into the season of getting vaccines and ending this COVID thing, or at least finding a way to dampen it. And she was a very strong advocate for anti-vaccine causes even way before she joined up with the Rebels. So back before... sorry, I got something in my throat here. Back before COVID even happened, there's a video with her online at Toronto City Council getting mad at them for requiring vaccinations for children to gain access to public school system. So she's been a hardcore advocate for anti-vaccine stuff, which is not making me happy for what's going to come on the Rebel in the future, considering that they're already sort of like leaning towards the Bill Gates, who's friends with Jeffrey Epstein, created a vaccine that's going to kill old people, which was in our last episode of the podcast. So I just wanted to flag that I figured this out about another random Rebel cast member that we're probably not going to talk about because her videos are terrible. And to be honest, so are this person's videos. So this is Andrew Chapados, and we were actually going to cover one of his videos a while back, which was going to be on... He did a video basically about trigger warnings in front of Disney videos about like previous racial content or racist content in Disney films. And him and David Menzies were having a chat about that. And so we were going to do that, but the content we watched instead of that ended up going a bit too long. So we didn't watch the full thing. But they decided for some reason to give Andrew Chapados his own show. And it's called Andrew Says. And this was the premiere episode of Andrew Says, was an interview with Dave Rubin. So my guess is that the show is supposed to be kind of like a Dave Rubin show where you get a guest on and you just like interview them. And we're going to witness some of that. I will say that I jumped ahead in time as well because there's a bit of a preamble. He ends up playing some clips from some of the other speaking events that Rubin has gone to where he got heckled and other stuff like this. And I just don't... It'll save us 5 minutes to just skip all that bullshit and get into the meat of some of the garbage stuff they're about to say. So, yeah, this is for you, Ken. We got...
I can't wait to discuss some high-level ideas with my I am Dave Rubin.
I will say, too, it feels weird, like, that Dave Rubin would be the first guest here. And there's going to be a payoff to that at the end of the show when you find out why the hell would Andrew, or Rubin, why the hell would Rubin decide to go on this nobody who the hell is Andrew Chapados on his very first show? Why would that happen? And there's probably a reason near the end. And we can discuss why Rubin is slumming by appearing on the Rebel Media show. But here it is. Now again, I skipped. So we're gonna jump in on a question that Andrew has for Dave Rubin.
For sure. Now I was mentioning to somebody earlier.
Let me know if the volumes are good
that
too.
they seem to be the same type of people who,
Yeah.
4 or 5 years ago they hated the government. They hated everything the government stood for, and now they're out in the streets. They're still bashing against the fascism, smashing windows and everything. But is it just me, or do you find that these are the same people who are saying that we must lock down, we must follow the government instructions, we must listen to the governing bodies about what to do about the virus? Do you find that? Is that just me?
So for context too, the previous clips, and I'm going to turn up the desktop audio there for you, Tim, so the volume was lower. So hopefully that helps. Let me know. So the prior clips were of the activists yelling at his thing, and so Andrew's basically wanting to know, like, is that over or is it getting worse? And Rubin responds,
No, it's the total flaw of leftist thinking, which is they'll tell you that, Trump is Hitler and Hitler is in charge of the government. And they'll also say, oh, we need a federal mandate, a federal lockdown. So the problem is they don't.
So let me get this straight. What Rubin answers there is, he's gonna, I think, wrap around and somehow get to his question. We'll get to it in a second. I just wanted to pause there to highlight that Dave Rubin here is conflating having some sort of policy in place or mandate in place during a global pandemic to help protect citizens is kind of like Hitler.
I kind of.
Leftists view Trump as a new Hitler.
Yeah.
Well, but why?
Jody,
the framing is to say he's like Hitler, and yet look, the government wants to put all these mandates in place. So who's the real Hitler here? Is like kind of the argument that's being made here.
It's ironic, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's just ironic. Like, well, leftists think that Trump is Hitler, but like he's doing this thing that I disagree with, that I think is authoritarian. Wait, never mind.
Was he?
Think that
No, but I think he was reflecting on like what the Democrats want to do, not what Trump is doing, because Trump isn't locking stuff down.
Right, but that's the flaw in the logic that you pointed out, isn't it? It's like, oh, Trump's Hitler, he's doing these things. I can't believe the left believes that,
Yeah.
as we enforce lockdowns, which I believe are totalitarian.
Yeah.
It doesn't really work, Dave.
You were gonna say something, Vienna?
It's just like, what fucking leftist actually thinks that any government is like actually handling shit well?
Yeah.
Like we're all quite critical, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
But also, I don't know how many. I mean, like, I can make an argument for why Trump is fascist or why his movement is fascistic. But that's like, I don't know. I mean, I only find sometimes like the cringy neolibs, the resistant types online are the ones who often like say Trump Hitler.
Cheeto man
Yeah.
bad.
Yeah. Which is why it's like there's like this conflation between the kind of like the left and these other like Democrats. It doesn't really like go together. Like they don't realize that they are. Well, I mean, they do realize in some point, because I think eventually he's going to point that out, especially in terms of Biden's cabinet. But we'll continue to listen.
So I was just going to say, the left is a monolith to these people. There's no distinction between leftists and neolibs.
Yeah.
Don't really understand what power is. So for those of us that are more liberty-minded, if you're a libertarian or you're an old school classical liberal or you're a conservative, we believe in individual rights, we believe in states' rights, we believe in scaling back power because that allows human freedom to flourish. That's a very simple idea, that if you get the government out of the way, that usually people can figure out the best way to live for themselves, their families, their local communities. So it's a bottom-up way of looking at the world.
What the thing that I don't get is like a lot of these like anarchistic structures, or people who promote anarchism, a left wing anarchism. The reason, like, they promote the idea of like you are going to create structures bottom up, and the point is to advocate for like democratic structures all over the place, right? And what Dave is suggesting is like, let's remove all rules altogether, and that somehow everything will be fine so long as you don't have any regulations, any laws, any structure. Just get rid of it. Like,
what's that old libertarian saying? Libertarianism means that my girlfriend shouldn't have to wear a car seat.
Yeah. What?
I saw this movie that was filled with great ideas where there were no rules and people lived as they wanted. It was called The Purge.
I made this joke on the podcast yesterday where it's like, you know, the Ayn Rand fantasy where you don't know whether or not the person fucked your steak before they gave it to you, you know? Because that's the thing. It's like if you want a world where there's no like food regulations or no regulations at all, like what's to say that when you walk into any restaurant that the person isn't like doing something weird to your steak or putting lead chips in it or like what?
Well, Jody, obviously those businesses will fail. Clearly, that's what happened. Only the most ethical businesses will survive under unregulated capitalism.
The cream rises to the top, Jody.
My favorite thing is watching libertarians argue about how roads will function.
Yeah.
Oh man,
Companies will pay for it because there will be ethical consumption under capitalism. Piano, come on, you know there will be.
I love as well his acknowledgement that it's a simple idea. It's such a simple idea, and that's why it'll work. And let freedom reign. But this is why I think his previous statement as well was the contrast between they thought Donald Trump was Hitler, but here they are putting in all these regulations in place during COVID, when really what we know is the anti-Hitler, the pro-freedom, is to remove all regulations from everything. It's such a weird way of framing all of this, but Dave Rubin, hardcore libertarian.
Left loves power. I think there's a lot
love
of philosophic
power.
and probably religious existential reasons for that. And what they don't seem to understand is that if you just love power, well, every now and again, your guy might get in there and be able to do the things that you want. But at the same time, it might also be that a guy that you really don't like, say Orange Man, gets in there, and then he can do all sorts of things you don't like. So the only way to have sort of a healthy tension is that you scale back the power and you give the power to the people. That's a very American sentiment, but it's something that the left has just completely lost.
Did any of you follow that?
I mean,
I was like, okay, Rubin's making some points, and then he said that's a very American notion. Like,
There's so much there. Like, what did he say? He said the left loves power. Okay, cool. Power is a good thing, sure. But then he says that it's a religious existential thing to them.
No. He said it's a religious existential.
Yeah. And then he was like, the problem with power is that like eventually your person won't have power. And so, like, I mean, there's like an obvious truism there, but like I guess what he's saying is that the left wants some sort of like authoritarian power. But then it's like if the left really had authoritarian power, whenever they would like take power, they would take power, and then there wouldn't be an opportunity for some sort of like democratic vote to have the Republican come in. You know what I mean? Like, if what he's saying is true, the logical extension of that would be once the left takes power, they would fucking take it, and then you wouldn't have a chance anymore.
It's the same thing he said before, where he said, like, authoritarians love authoritarianism, and the left are the real fascists. And this is how he continues to push that illogical narrative.
But the whole thing, too, is, like, because if the left just wants democracy, then the left just wants democracy. And then it's like, yeah, of course, then the Republicans could come in. I don't know. It's just a weird outlook of, or like, what is it to it? And then it's like somehow the better position is a libertarian where you where you take the power away. But if he's pro-Trump, when has Trump taken that power away? And he is pro-Trump. Like, we're going to get to some of that in a bit here too. But like, how did Trump take power away? Resident American, do you feel like Trump took power away?
Sorry, I'm still trying to process all of this. It's hard. Can you repeat the question?
We're struggling with all these high-level ideas. High level up here in our brain. Our brain
high,
things.
right. Yeah. It's high, I'll tell you that.
I was saying, if he's saying that what we need to do is take the power away, and so what you need limited small government. Do you feel like Trump has created limited small government? Do you feel like he's taken the power away from some of these establishment figures? Or
are you fucking joking, mate? Are you fucking serious?
Rubin has his pulse on your country, don't you know?
I'll answer honestly. No, I don't feel that way. America feels more totalitarian than it did yesterday.
Yeah. It's like, that's the thing. Like, it's so, like, we're gonna get into like your thinky and your feely in a bit. And this is the thing. It's all feelings, really, for Rubin. He's going to claim facts and logic, obviously. But it's all feelings for him. It's like he feels Trump is taking the power. So therefore he is, you know. I actually think Dave Rubin is probably a grifter. So he probably just feels the fact that, like, I'm getting a paycheck out of this. But anyone who speaks like him, it's clearly just a feeling argument.
Now, when you speak about power, I've been looking at the prescribed cabinet of Joe Biden, of a potential presidency of Joe Biden in 2021. What do you think happens if we have Rashida Tlaib and Bernie Sanders, and I don't know if it's been mentioned yet, but Beto O'Rourke, gun czar, if you will. What do you think happens to the state of the United States? Do you think anything gets done? I mean, if they've still got the Congress, do you think anything gets done, or are we at a gridlock still?
So
we had to brunch.
Has this man interviewed somebody for his life?
Is this a human being?
Or a robot? He is boring as hell and atrocious as an interviewer. Like, I can't imagine. This is his first foray into this. And so I'm curious to see if this gets taken up or continues, because he is bad at this. Like, even, I would say Dave Rubin is bad, but when you're comparing these two together, like, Rubin seems like a famous orator, like just like just a beautiful, pristine speaker. And then you have Andrew just stumbling over his words just to get a question out. But yes, he wants to know whether anything's going to get done, and he highlights all the like supposed left-wing people that are going to be in the Biden administration.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, Jody, that Andrew makes Rubin look like the Nardwuar, the human serviette of interviewers, for some little CanCon there.
Yeah. I mean, you would expect Andrew would. I mean, he's got the plaid. He just needs the personality, you know.
Well, I'd prefer gridlock rather than pretty much anything else, anything that these people could bring. I mean, from what I can see so far, assuming that Biden does become president, and by the way, I'm still not sure that's totally going to happen here, but...
Get the fuck out of here, dude. What the fuck? This is still a thing.
I've noticed, like, so as someone who consumes a lot of right-wing content, they all speak like this. They refuse to acknowledge that it's even, like, close to being called.
It's like something that has to be said at the end of every sentence that has to do with the election. Like, under a Joe Biden presidency, that may not even happen. We have to, and then they go on to the sentence. Like, it's nonsensical.
If Biden even wins, because who knows at this point.
There's going to be a communist revolution between now and whenever the fuck the guy's supposed to get into office.
Oh, we gotta ramp that up then. What have we got, like 40 days?
40 days and 40 nights. If it's good enough for Jesus, it's good enough for us.
Vive la revolution!
but let's say that is where we're going with this. You know, he's picking sort of more old school careerist or corporatist Democrats. So I don't think the progressives are actually going to be that happy with him. I don't know that those corporatist Democrats have enough juice to fight, you know, the base, this rabid, angry, hostile, burn it down, Bernie Sanders progressive base. So I think that's a problem for them. But I think in a weird way, the best situation for the next 4 years, if Biden was to become president, and by the way, even if he becomes president on January 20th, he's obviously not going to be president for 4 years. And he's obviously not pulling the strings because there's something cognitively wrong with him. I mean, we all know that.
Man, I gotta say though, my boy be spitting.
Yeah, we get it. Biden's a corpse.
He'd be coping.
I mean, I love this like framing that somehow like there's this. I do like that he pushed against what Andrew was saying by acknowledging that Biden has staffed his whole administration with like corporatist Democrats, but then to say that's like defining Bernie. Wasn't he a Bernie supporter? Wasn't his whole thing back like in the 2016 election was that he was kind of like a Bernie or Buster kind of figure? Like
I didn't personally follow a lot of the stuff back then. The events around 2016 were what got me into following a lot of this kind of thing. And Rubin was not something I knew about.
Because I remember he used to be in favor of like a single payer healthcare. And he would always say that. And the reason why he wasn't going to support Hillary because she wasn't for Medicare for all kind of thing. That was one of his talking points back in 2015, the lead up to the 2016 election. But that was before, like, he's definitely shift from like a lot of that, and you're gonna see some of the shift in this video too. Like, I feel like as the time goes on, he gets more and more conservative and more sort of like involved in the kind of like conservative talking points that they use. But it is weird for him to talk about as if there's like this secret Bernie cabal that controls the Democratic Party, and they're gonna push against these corporatists. Like, I don't know, it's like a weird fantasy scenario that they've conjured up in their heads.
I interpret it as like it's corporate Democrats who are going to be pulling Joe Biden's stream. You know, the Illuminati.
Yeah.
Can we say that? Can we say that? Can we name them here?
I just wanted to say that if there is indeed a Bernie Sanders cabal, I would like to join it.
Like, I would point more towards a possible, like, you know, pulling the strings and like triple parentheses them type of thing. Like, even though Dave Rubin is Jewish, he's not immune to like making use of anti-Semitic stereotypes, especially like being like, oh, the progressive base is Bernie Sanders, and then like, you know, Soros is going to come up on the other end for the corporatists. Like,
I was going to say, I'm not afraid of him. I'll say his name, Soros.
Yeah.
Well, you know, that's undergirding like a lot of this, those kinds of talks. But like, I wonder where Dave Rubin, because he set up this dichotomy between like the Bernie side and these like corporatist Democrats, and I wonder where Rubin would insert Soros there, because like I get the feeling too that Rubin's going to be against this corporatist section as well, because he's going to think that it's infiltrated by all these like woke people that are now controlling them, which is kind of like their other talking point. So I don't know, maybe Soros is involved in all of it. Remember the octopus tentacles? I think I showed that on the last Friday with the mini putt.
Can't say that.
Well, there, I said it. So what are you going to do?
What are you going to do? Cancel me?
Nancy Pelosi was talking about the 25th Amendment, so they're already laying the groundwork to have Kamala be put in charge, and then I suppose it would be Nancy as VP, or who knows what they would do at that point. But they do want to break every norm. I would say the best thing that we get is gridlock, but I am worried that, you know, Trump, like Trump or hate Trump, he was getting rid of these careerists, right? Mm-hmm. This is what Drain the Swamp was all about. And by draining the swamp, he actually did start doing things that we never thought could be done. He was scaling back the war in Iraq, scaling back the war in Afghanistan. He was making peace in the Middle East. These are all good things that it took getting rid of conventional thinking government people to start happening, to start making happen. the fact that we're going to bring back all of the people who always got it wrong, and John Kerry, I mean, a guy who's never done anything ever other than marry into the big Ketchup Heinz family. It's like, all right, now he's going to be the climate czar. The guy's literally never accomplished anything except that, he's overly Botoxed. I guess that's an accomplishment.
That's something.
Okay.
Andrew's such a lame host. Like, yeah, something. But you got something to say?
I just was like, there was two or three like even me, like I sometimes it takes a while for me to really take in a lot of information, high level ideas. I need my brain goes into recovery mode. But just the amount of like, not like the idea that Trump quote unquote drained the swamp. Like, has he not just thrown in every warmongering right winger into, like, I know John Bolton isn't there anymore, but like he was the guy whose wet dream was to invade Iran, and any number of other candidates.
John Kelly, Mad Dog Mattis,
and
Michael Flynn.
Michael Flynn. That was the one I, for whatever reason, was blanking on the name. But like, and the other thing, like peace in the Middle East, like was that before or after he droned the Iranian? Yeah, so
General Soleimani.
Yeah, like that's a super peaceful action, trying to essentially have your Osama bin Laden moment to try and upstage Obama somehow.
He's escalated drone strikes in Afghanistan and Iraq. So for him to claim that somehow Trump has scaled down these wars, no, he hasn't. If anything, he's like made it worse in terms of taking the troops out and sending mercenaries in and other stuff like that. So it's like things have not gotten better since Trump has been in power. I mean, he bragged about dropping the mother of all bombs on Afghanistan when he first, just like it was like within the first year of his election. Like,
I remember that.
For them to try to play, it's amazing how much they want to sort of like play Trump off as this anti-war president, which he's never been. I mean, he's only anti-war, like vocally, because it's unpopular, and like he didn't start a war, but he could have with Iran. That came very close.
With that in mind, though, like within the mind of right-wingers and like most liberal media and everything, like he has visibly withdrawn troops from Syria, Iraq, and Afghanistan, and so that is all that matters to the American media, and so that is all that they are going to focus on, is that he has withdrawn troops, because the effects on the lives of the people where those troops were stationed plays no part in the American mind. They don't care.
As long as our boys and girls overseas are fine and not at risk from gunning down innocent people in these countries, that's totally fine. Just send in a drone, drop a bomb, shoot up a militaristic leader of a warmongering nation, or whatever you want to call it. Like, that's totally fine.
But they also want to make it sound like war isn't a possibility. Like, he throws around the idea of still using nukes. He's constantly engaged in a war with China. Like, he wanted to start a Cold War. Well, he technically is starting a Cold War with them. And then tensions between these two countries have increased. Like, what's the end result of creating tensions like this? And even where there has been, like, these peace deals that they talk about, it's been for countries where those things were already in the works, like, long before then. They were the culmination of, like, in Bahrain was the one, and the UAE, correct? I think those
Bahrain
are
and...
I mean, those were countries that already had some pretty normalized relations with Israel. It was just sort of like signing on the dotted line kind of thing. And it had very little to do with Trump actively doing anything within those countries. If anything, he probably wanted to do it, like push it over that line so he had something to brag about rather than like actually accomplishing anything. But there was also this, like, again, it's this conspiracy theory that really it's Nancy Pelosi that's in charge of everything, and how somehow they're going to sneak her into power.
Yeah, I was going to ask, what was he saying about the 25th Amendment?
Apparently, Nancy Pelosi is going to push through the 25th Amendment on Donald Trump, even though time's running out for that, clearly. For the person who was so reticent to impeach him, like, and all this stuff, like, they have such weird views about Nancy Pelosi. But anyways, then, so what's going to happen is Biden's going to either die or get removed, and then Kamala is going to become president, and then Nancy's going to be VP, and as VP, she's going to control the world. Clearly, that's
that is exactly how vice presidents in my country work.
Yeah.
They have the most important job.
Yeah. And
So,
I don't know why
Sorry,
they
go
would get Nancy Pelosi. Like, none of this makes any fucking sense. But again, Dave Rubin, they're like, Nancy Pelosi has become this like Republican talking point just so they can fear monger about San Francisco liberals is pretty much what it is.
can we just touch base though on like John Kerry real quick?
Yeah, go for it. Who had no
Like-
accomplishments but marrying into Heinz ketchup and has Botox in his face.
How old is Dave again? I can't remember.
Mid-40s, I think.
Yeah, he's a Gen Xer.
Oh, that makes sense. So Wikipedia exists. I didn't know that his report was largely the precursor to the Iran-Contra affair.
Yeah.
That's
Who's-
kind
How
of,
old is he?
that's kind of important.
Who,
That's
John
kind of a
Kerry?
big fucking... John Kerry, yeah.
Yeah, John Kerry has done a ton over his life.
Yeah.
Like I mean, here's the
Like-
things. He won a Democratic primary and ran against George Bush in an election. Now here's the thing. He lost ultimately the presidency.
Yeah.
But here's the thing. I don't like John Kerry. Like, let's be honest. He's
I don't
not
either,
my
yeah.
But like to play it off as if he has no accomplishments, I don't know, like winning a primary in a presidential
know.
race is
Lieutenant Governor, United States Senator,
Yeah.
Chair of the Small Business Committee, Chair of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee, United States Secretary of State. I don't know. That's pretty big. Those are all pretty big accomplishments.
yeah.
But Elrond, has he ever tried to defund the post office?
Yeah.
That's a good point, man. John Kerry's never been on the Rubin Report, so who can say how intelligent he really is?
Dave Rubin, when did you show up?
Just discussing high-level ideas, you guys.
The last thing I want to point out is they had some fucking line about like the norms, how the Democrats are going to come in and like destroy all norms. What does he think happened in the Trump administration? Like every norm. Well, for one, he talks as if he wanted an outsider to come in there and destroy everything, and that's good. He drained the swamp. And how did he do this? By breaking a whole bunch of norms. And yet then he goes on to say that the Democrats are going to be the ones who break all the norms. Like, it's so vapid. Like, you could just say anything you fucking want to. None of it has to make any sense.
Well, they're not breaking the right norms, Joey.
Yeah.
Come on.
Well, it's only
Come
a good norm if it's the ones we want to keep, and the ones we don't are bad norms. And if the Democrats want to do it, they're bad norms.
That's right. That's right. I mean, like the left wants to keep us from saying Merry Christmas. That's bad. We can't break that norm. We need one.
Yeah.
The right wants us to get rid of regulations on restaurants. We can get rid of that. We
Yeah.
don't need that. Let's see if they fucked my steak. It doesn't.
Yeah. Oh God! Now let's watch Andrew try to respond. I mean, what he laughed at his joke, and now he's gonna go into another question. I hope
Yeah.
Now, when we talk about
charisma is just
Trump
radiating
removing
off of him.
troops and everything like that, I couldn't help but notice. Again, I'm extrapolating over 4 years here. But when Trump's pulling troops out, or he's saying no more foreign proxy wars, the media is still pushing
I
out
drank
people
at the
like
same
John
time.
Bolton and Brennan, who are completely, again, the people who were completely against this stuff 4, 5, 10 years ago are now pushing these voices who are completely pro-war and military-industrial complex, and that's how.
Yeah. Well, it's
Go ahead.
it,
Does anyone see what's weird about this question?
I'm going to be honest. I kind of spaced on the question because I cannot follow this guy because it's literally like that's a robot engaging in conversation protocol. And then by contrast, looking at the two of them, seeing Rubin, who for all his vapid idiocy, is a professional grifter with his book in the background. He takes a drink from the official Rubin Report mug that you can buy on his website, I'm sure. Don't go there, fuck it.
He has
But-
5 copies of his book in the background. Excuse me.
Oh yes, sorry. This particular cut, the split screen does not show the 5, but the wide shot of just the ISO shows all 5. You're correct. But like it's like, and then you got nothing on the left, nothing promoting Rebel other than the the graphic in the lower right. So I mean, like I'm looking at this being like, man, they are truly outclassed, and to be outclassed by Dave Rubin, that takes effort.
I think that ISIS uses this video to hypnotize American soldiers into giving up CIA secrets.
Yeah.
Because this fucking this is torture. This is the most boring fucking thing I've ever watched. I've lost so many neurons. I'm ready to tell you how to get to the president right now if you just turn this up.
Now, do we know where Andrew is from? Is he from Southern Ontario? Because he sounds like...
I think so.
He sounds like an Ontario boy.
I'm pretty sure. I don't know his background. I mean, he's so boring. Do I want to research who he is? Maybe I'll take some time to look into him afterwards. But yeah, I don't know. But we missed the obvious thing. Like, if you're going to ask him a question... So the question, from what I gathered, was kind of like, why is the media pushing these pro-Warhawk people now? Isn't that weird? And one of the people that he listed that the media is pushing was John Bolton, who... Why?
Yeah.
Why are we talking about John Bolton? Why is the media talking about John Bolton? And it's like, maybe Trump appointed him into his administration? Like, so why did Trump appoint a pro-war person into his goddamn administration? Oh my god, like, what a stupid-ass question. And now you're like, I feel bad for Rubin, because it's like, you just contradicted yourself in your own goddamn question. Let's see, can he wiggle himself around on it, though?
It's very clear that this is what they're going to bring back. They're going to bring back all of the failed policies of the past. I mean, this was the irony of the Biden campaign, because how is Joe Biden, a guy that was VP for 8 years, who's been in government for 47 years, who's now 78 years old, if he saw all of these problems with the world, why didn't he ever do anything about them? I mean, in many ways, he was running against Obama, because if Obama had done anything good, there would have been no need for a Biden presidency. And he's running against his own record. And now here he is, just bringing back the same old stuff that we had started to expunge over the last 4 years. So I don't see anything particularly good. I would bet, if I was placing bets right now, I mean, someone can find this video 4 years from now, I'm guessing we're going back to a couple wars. There's going to be a couple wars. And remember, we didn't have any under Trump, and he was scaling them back. And I'm guessing that the Middle East is going to be a real mess, because Biden will feel that he has to reverse things that Trump did, even if they're positive things, because Orange Man bad.
See, a lot of the things that he says, like, are arguably, like if they were coming from a leftist, it'd be like, yeah, okay, I can see what you mean. But when it's coming from him, it's just like, what?
But you notice...
What do you... Huh?
You notice the difference in delivery, though. Like, if it was coming from a leftist, it'd be clear. Like, Rubin is realizing... Like, part of this, you can tell there's, like, some strategy involved here, where Rubin realizes that he wants to say these things, because his whole shtick has always been the kind of, like, I'm sort of a lefty, but I'm, like, kind of cool with this, like, Republican stuff, where he realizes that, like, in saying what he's saying, he's trying to signal to left-leaning people, being like, by hitting their talking points about how Biden's going to make everything the same, but those failed policies were in place. But he's not talking about what were those failed policies. Which of those policies is he going to keep the same? What? Why did Obama fail? Like, he's just speaking in, like, abstracts, because he knows he can't actually talk about the policies, either because he might actually agree with what those people actually did, or, like, going to the conservatives is going way past what Biden was like. You know what I mean? So it's like, it's not... He needs to just speak in the vagaries so he can sort of, like, reach this, like, leftist that he wants to try to convince that Biden is bad, but with no substance to it. It's a weird strategy, but, like, that's what it feels like he's doing.
It's sort of the Ben Shapiro school of thought, where you say nothing at all, but if you say it quickly and confidently and smoothly, people can believe it. Because yeah, that does, like, it sounds like, oh, like, this guy sounds like he knows what he's talking about, and not like a robot trying to engage with human beings. Let me ask you this question, and maybe you can answer it. He actually sounds like a human being that's like putting forth some reasonable shit until you actually dig down and find like, oh no, it's just a vague nothing burger.
Did you wish to, like, I love the comparison you just made between Andrew and Rubin, but it's like, I would have wanted Andrew to bring his A game for his first fucking show.
Well, I think he did, Jody.
It's like he took a Valium. Valium is the thing that makes you sleepy, right? It's like he took a Valium, like, right before he did the show.
Yeah.
But let's see his next riveting question.
I'm not entirely certain that Biden does know what his own policies do in real life. When I go back and you hear everything about the busing segregation and all the clips that we have seen, when I go back even further into the 70s and look at the things he was saying about how he's friends with the last Dixiecrat, for example, and how well he got along with extreme segregation. I'm not just talking about people who had some differences. Maybe they were for busing or against busing. I'm talking about people who thought they were inferior races. He's being best friends with them. And I still think that he thinks that his policies back then were a good idea. I don't think he actually knows what his policies do in real life. I think he just sits back and does what he's told, and the media covers the rest of it for him. Now, I wanted to segue the media coverage into the stuff about the election. And from what I see and what I've seen from election night onward, what does the coverage tell you? There's zero fraud. There's nothing to worry about. And I struggle with the idea all the time. I mean, watching CNN or MSNBC, or even, God forbid, the Young Turks sometimes. Are we outright lying, Dave, or are we blissfully unaware and not good at our jobs?
Yeah.
It's the latter.
It's
the latter.
Oh my god! Oh, he needs to streamline these fucking questions. Oh, I did love his, like, what is this, like, weird tangent about the segregation shit? Like,
yeah, I mean, my face is basically Dave's in the freeze frame right now.
Yeah. But it is weird for him to mention this. I mean, let's be clear. Rebel News platforms all kinds of shitty people. All kinds of shitty people.
They employ some, too.
So it's like when he...
Literally fucking Trump. Like, that's all you need to say. It's like...
But I would say Rebel News hosts people that are worse than Trump. Like, in terms of, like, the racial politics. Like, IQ realists. Or, like, biological race realists. All these kind of crazy people. Like, Rebel News does this shit all the fucking time. They would if anything, they would platform the fucking Strom Thurmond. If Strom Thurmond was alive today, Rebel News would have him on the show to talk about why everyone's trying to cancel him.
Well, it seems like, Rebel News just, maybe they don't know what their policies do,
And we're gonna get to it in a bit, but like, Rubin's platformed some of these people.
That's the reason his show is so fucking toxic and bad, is that not only does he platform them, but he gives them an uncritical platform.
Yeah. Oh, someone Tim said in the chat.
Looked up Andrew Chapados on Rebel News, and it describes him as having a background in broadcasting and public relations.
Yeah, Tim just said that in the chat.
And that he has been a professional writer for nearly a decade. That is a lie. That is such a lie. At fucking journalism school, what they do in Canada is they teach you how to pronounce things properly because we have such regional accents.
Maybe he's nervous. It's his first interview, guys.
I hope it's his last.
Dave Rubin's not coming back.
Drea, I know you're watching this. You go tell Andrew right now. He needs some of your energy. You need to give him some of your energy.
Yeah.
I don't
Dre Humphreys, the new host of Andrew Says TV.
Yeah. Dre Humphreys just takes over all of Rebel. And
I hope.
Everything is so mysterious.
I'm down with it. I'm here for that, Drea. Please do it. We'll help.
So I think where we ended off was now we're getting into the election fraud? Was that what the question was? I can't remember. I think this has to do with election fraud. So we'll see.
Let's go, bro.
Well, you should not be watching the Young Turks.
Only on election night.
I don't know if you're drunk or you're a glutton for punishment or something. I mean, look, you're not going to get truth out of CNN. You're not.
Just so for those who don't know, Dave Rubin used to be on the Young Turks, and he left because he felt like they weren't paying him enough. And since then, they've made fun of him frequently. So him trashing the Young Turks has some context.
It seems like they're paying too much.
Yeah, shout out Anna Kasparian. She's done some videos with the late great Michael Brooks, mocking and also revealing some of that dynamic in past videos and podcasts.
Indeed. Yeah. I mean, we're gonna get into it in a bit, so I'll talk about it then. But like also like there's some aspects of the Young Turks situation that were integral to what shaped the current Dave Rubin. But he even like now lies about his formative experience, and we're gonna get to that in a bit because he goes, well, I don't even know if it's a lie, but it's like a reimagining of what the formative experience is. But we'll get there when we get there.
Not going to get truth out of MSNBC. These are organizations that are designed for clicks and for ratings. That's what everything that's in business, in media is for, right? Like everybody.
What a truism.
Now, it's ironic because I sit here as someone that I tell my opinion for a living and I interview people and all that. Do I want to make a healthy living while I do this and provide something that's worthwhile so I can live the life that I want to live? Of course I do. But I put my biases out there. The idea that Wolf Blitzer is not a Democrat, or Jake Tapper is not a Democrat, or Brian Stelter is not a Democrat, or Jim Acosta is not a Democrat, or Anderson Cooper is not a Democrat, or Don Lemon is not a Democrat. I mean, that's crazy. They're all partisan Democrats. Put MSNBC aside. I mean, that's just an obvious joke. But CNN is the one that really, that's why everyone makes fun of CNN, because they were the one that was supposed to be real. And there was a time when they were real. I remember being in 9th grade during the first Gulf War, when Saddam Hussein went into Kuwait. And there was something incredible about watching CNN. I remember being in social studies class and watching clips, and we were seeing 24-hour news, and it was on the ground, and it was real.
Oh, my God.
This is not a fucking interview.
The window was just very, very narrow at that time, and we didn't see a lot of stuff. But there was something good there that is transformed into something that is very bad. And these people are basically establishment yokels, pretty much. I mean, they really are. So you're going to just see a lapdog media. I mean, they're happy Biden is in. Their guy is in. The Democrat is back. The evil Republicans and evil Trump have been defeated, in their minds, at least at the moment. And you're going to see the worst sort of
He's a good rambler.
Run lapdog media that you can possibly imagine.
So, CNN, like, does he not know who Ted Turner was? Does he, like, know none of this, like, fucking history? Like, Ted Turner was the founder of CNN. I mean, like, they were the forefront of bringing, like, 24-hour news. If anything, it's CNN fucking ruined it for the rest of us by starting this 24-hour news network bullshit. But it's like, wow. For them to talk as if, like, the Gulf War coverage was good, I mean, like, sending the people down there and filming all of it was actually bad. Like, part of, like, the reason why that was bad was because it, like, turned war into entertainment. Like, when people covered the Vietnam War back in the 70s, it was to highlight the negative things that the American government was doing to the Vietnamese people. At least the good journalism that was there that was capturing that stuff. What happened in the Gulf War, so this is like not 2003, but in the 90s, what happened there was it was one of the first times where the media companies embedded themselves in the military and had a symbiotic relationship with the media coverage there. But it's like amazing, like all it is for Rubin is he can remember it when he was a kid watching this shit. And like that's all it is to him. It's like it was just a fun show that we were watching. You guys there? I'm just curious.
Listen. You can't have either one of them talk for unabated 5 minutes and expect me to be awake. I'm sorry, but I don't listen. I don't watch Dave Rubin for obvious reasons. I like news, but like, this is my first time sitting down extended with Dave. And
no!
It's How? How does anyone watch this? Explain to me, chat. Explain to me how you watch this, because I can't fucking do it.
I think part of it is... Oh, sorry, go, Ken.
I was just going to say, I think the only way, like the way I listen to him at all, and it's not like I go out of my way to do so. Well, I guess in a way I do. I listen to him through the lens of leftist podcasts and other commentators who will, similar to what we're doing right now, break it down and mock it relentlessly. And that's the only way I can even digest it. So to actually sit down here and have to do that myself, I kind of am gaining a new respect for them. It's like, how do you even follow this bullshit?
Well, part of that is like Rubin will do like these little short clips that he sends out there, but most of his content is like interviews, and then you just let the other person talk, and Dave Rubin just has to come in there with like a 2-second question. But it's like you can tell when he has to talk about himself, like he really is a kind of empty vessel. There's like no coherent thoughts rattling around in his brain. It's either just talking points or some appeal to like a Star Wars film is another frequent trope of his to go to. Or in this case, remembering his childhood watching CNN, as if that's evidence that CNN has changed over time. And let's be clear too, like in that respect, they were talking about how robotic Wolf Blitzer is. Wolf Blitzer has been with CNN for years. Like, to talk as if the network changed. If anything has changed, it's the color of Wolf Blitzer's beard. But that's fucking it. And Wolf Blitzer is a hardcore conservative. Like, for them to even, like, think that he's a Democrat? I've seen debates with him from back in the 90s, like, defending Israel. Like, hardcore defending Israel.
Yeah.
Wolf Blitzer is not a Democrat. Well, he might be an anti-Trumper, but he's definitely has not been a long-time supporter of the Democrats.
He's not a true conservative, right? He's a right.
Yeah. He might not like believe in race war, but yeah.
When we talk about the media,
oh man, Andrew's brain's gonna explode.
First of all, Wolf Blitzer, I think we can.
He's got a power on.
Bot than
he's a robot.
Oh yeah, no. Look, he's a high-level android. You know what I mean? And he can actually. The fact that they've been able to program these things to occasionally show human emotion is pretty freaking impressive. You know.
Yeah.
That reminds me, all the crying.
Yeah, Andrew.
Jimmy Kimmel's cried. I don't know how many times. Stephen Colbert. What's the British guy's name? He's crying too. Trevor Noah.
Oliver.
Yeah, Oliver. Trevor Noah is probably crying right now.
Probably crying.
Are we? Who's taking this seriously?
What a joke.
This is what I want to know: is who is being convinced, or is it just all spinning their own wheels and convincing themselves that they're the greatest people, and
they love.
So we're gonna get into the emotion segment of the argument, but I just want to say like bad delivery, but also like, what, like I don't get the connection. Like it sounds like they're gonna be talking about like a kind of toxic masculinity thing, which is like shaming these men for emasculating themselves and crying on television, and then it goes from that to like, why do they think they're so important? It's like, I don't know, they're celebrities? Like what kind of question is that for Dave Rubin? I don't, like, you're not a good interviewer. Oh my god.
I have an update on the life of Andrew.
Chapados facts? Oh yeah, no, we should intersplice Chapados facts.
Yeah, when was he manufactured and which factory?
So he's been around for at least 7 years because in 2013 he wrote an article for PRweek.com.
Oh yes,
which is a website about PR.
Lovely
industry stuff. And he says that he did a public relations advanced diploma at Durham College in Oshawa.
Okay.
So Southern Ontario boy. Ish. I don't know where Oshawa is, honestly.
No, Oshawa, Southern Ontario. Yeah, it's just outside of Toronto.
And he calls his 2-year diploma the Canadian equivalent to an undergraduate degree in the U.S. So he has been a liar his whole life as well.
Yeah, a college degree is not an undergraduate degree. Not even similar.
Yeah. We have the same structure as they do. Like,
yeah. I was just gonna say it probably wasn't a lie. I just don't think his truth-telling protocol had been installed yet.
Or he was.
I don't think it was ever installed.
But we're gonna get this wonderful answer out of the PR boy's mouth. Or question out of his mouth.
Does anybody have LinkedIn? Because I found his LinkedIn profile, but I don't have it, so I can't view.
I do.
Okay, someone
I'll
do
look
research. We're gonna listen to
Thank
Dave Rubin's answer.
Emotion. They put primacy on their feelings more than anything else.
All
I'm
they
not
care
saying you
about
should
is
just be some
feelings.
cold, hard, fact-based, evil person. But what you should care about is reality. I always consider myself a world-weary optimist. I'm an optimist because I believe the world can be better than it is, but I'm world-weary because it's a machine that's very hard to change. And I'm a realist. The world is not what I want it to be. It is what it is. And I can do what I can to maybe marginally change that a little bit for the better. But these people, most of them are atheists too, which is kind of funny because it's like they don't believe in God, but they do believe that Trump is the devil. And it's like you might want to look into the sort of intellectual or philosophical inconsistency you got going there.
Are you fucking kidding me?
What?
We're just here
David,
for these
are you-
high-level ideas.
Are you fucking serious, David? Are you taking like an obvious analogy that's being drawn and treating it as like they literally believe that? Are you fucking stupid?
There's so many levels of stupidity here. Like, Stephen Colbert is religious. I think he teaches Sunday school. So it's like this idea that like they're all atheists. I think most of them are probably religious. That wouldn't surprise me at all. But then the implication that you're making that somehow by thinking Trump is the devil, this is like a contradiction. Like clearly, in my mind, I'm thinking he's trying to make a joke. I think. But then it's like, what did this have to do with all the earlier shit that he was saying about facts and logic and how he's a world-weary optimist? Like, there was... It was like we were on this magical journey where, like, facts over feelings, and the left is all about feelings, but I'm a world-weary optimist, and you can only make marginal changes to, like... But there are really atheists who believe in the devil. Answered all the questions. and I will remind people, he got when he left the Young Turks, he left over atheist shit. Because at that time, he was self-identifying as an atheist. David Rubin.
I just fucking can't. How much longer is there?
We're just getting into the good stuff. It's heating up.
Oh,
As
fuck.
Michael Knowles says, I believe they worship the earth now. The worship of Gaia is an interesting one I like to point to. Now, a lot of stuff we've seen lately.
Oh, Andrew with the
we've
charisma.
Joe
Bringing
Rogan
it.
leave California. Elijah Schaffer, Fleckus, Daily Wire. I believe they went to Nashville.
Yep.
Why are so many people fleeing in droves, in your opinion? And does this change the political landscape of the places they are going? Not just the celebrities. People are leaving New York. They're leaving everywhere. Are they changing the political landscape where they're going? And why are they leaving, do you think?
So we got, people are leaving California and New York in droves. And the examples he listed were like 3 conservatives that he knew.
I love that the Daily
Rich
Caller
conservatives.
went to Nashville. You went to Nashville, Tennessee.
Leaving
Don't get
in
me wrong,
droves.
Tennessee's conservative, but you could have picked somewhere more conservative, couldn't you?
I want to remind people, this Elijah Schaffer person is an asshole who goes around to all these Black Lives Matter protests and tries to dox people. And he recently, I can't remember whether the last... it's been so many, I can't remember which one it was. But one of the more recent police shootings that led to some looting occurring, he went and started into a store and started videotaping some looters that then beat the shit out of him. So, Elijah Schaffer.
I got a bit of an update. I've located the aforementioned LinkedIn profile, and I'm looking it over.
I wish I had some sort of like sweep of like Chapados facts.
As far as the profile itself, there's no like information that Vienno hasn't already found that's new. But you can on LinkedIn see like activity that the person has engaged in, like posts they've liked, commented on, etc. And there's one I just really want to quickly highlight that I'm glad I was muted when I found it because I started laughing. It's this post. It's just like a meme. It's 10 things that require zero talent. And so he liked this.
Interviewing?
First one, being on time. Second, work ethic. 3, effort. 4, body language. 5, energy.
Wait,
6,
what was the name of this list again?
10 things that require zero talent.
Oh my god.
6, attitude. 7, passion. 8, being coachable. There's hope. 9, doing extra. And 10, being prepared. So, Chapados facts.
Excellent, Chapados. Sick interview. You nailed it.
He could have brought a little bit more passion to the table. Maybe passion requires a little more effort than he thinks.
Yeah, body language and energy is at an all-time low.
But, like, I still don't understand why they think, like, this is an own of, like, oh, you know, these conservative groups are leaving Democrat strongholds and going to other Democrat strongholds. Like, what, do you think they're going to change anything? It's like, no. Like, no. Once again, Tennessee is conservative. Nashville is not. It is a Democratic stronghold in the South. The Daily Caller going there, it's like, you know what you're getting into. You're doing this purposely.
Didn't Rogan go to Austin? Which again, like in Texas, is like very
holy
left.
Shit. Yeah, no, Austin's crazy. I love Austin.
Yeah,
but it is also left. So I don't understand this whole view of like we need to get away from the lefties by moving to where people are more left.
Well, be clear.
And the thing of it is, like, especially in America, if you go to like a Democratic city, a more left-leaning city in the South, those people are pretty left. Like, you would think that, oh, they would, like, draw a little bit culturally further to the right. And, like, some of them do. But, like, especially, like, Austin as an example, they're
very
pretty
left,
good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think David, like, again, it's Andrew, so his question isn't that great, and his examples are not great. But I think Rubin tries to clarify some of it, but we'll check that out.
Well, people are leaving because of high taxes and homelessness and insane house prices and the fact that people don't feel safe and drug use and all of those things. And let's remember, you know, the governor of California is Gavin Newsom, and Gavin Newsom was the mayor of San Francisco, and he wrecked San Francisco. I mean, find anyone across the aisle who thinks that Gavin Newsom did a good job in San Francisco. You can't find anyone, but in progressive politics, especially California progressive politics, you fail up. So I would say these people are leaving because, you know, Rogan, he just signed a $100 million deal. He doesn't want to give 52% of it or whatever it is to the government. I don't freaking blame him. But I think what the people in the red states have to be worried about is that there seems to be a disconnect with liberals, that the policies that they vote in have anything to do with why they're leaving their states. And then they often go to these other states and turn them blue. So if Texas or Florida is gonna become more blue because of these people, well, then Ted Cruz and Marco Rubio may want to start having people sign some sort of paperwork that says you're gonna have to vote Republican if you want to move here. That's
so notice before we get to that last comment, which is obviously the most insane considering Rubin's politics. Notice that, like, he took. See, this is like where I think Rubin is a bit more clever than Andrew, which is like he clearly took what Andrew was saying and spun it in a better way, which is that Rubin separated these kind of like people moving in droves and made it so that the people coming in droves were actually Democrats leaving New York, leaving California because of their own shitty policies that they enacted, and are now coming to Texas and making it blue, which frames it in a more like fearful like way. But of course, Joe Rogan, a friggin' like multi-millionaire, billionaire now probably, who is like wants to leave California for tax reasons. Like, of course. Of course it's about taxes. Most of like the rich people, conservatives leaving has to do with taxes. Sure, fine. But like to frame it as if like why would, and this gets back to what you were saying, Elron, which is like, why would someone leave the big city in California, move to the big city in Texas, and then make it like, you can't make Austin any more blue than it was. And my guess is Austin also has some like some of the problems he listed, like homelessness, drug use, and stuff. And like, let's like push to a side for a second that like clearly these are manifestations of other problems, less having to do with some sort of progressive policy set that Rubin thinks exists, but just the fact that these things exist and maybe people like you have this kind of white flight shit that they're sort of like hand waving towards or signaling, right? What is what are the people like gonna go? So they leave California. They're not going to rural Texas. They're going to Austin. And in that case, like they're just making it more blue than it already is. Like I don't fully understand what he's trying to get at here, but he's trying to make people afraid of these incoming people. That, and he wants to betray his libertarian principles and make sure that you're a Republican if you're moving to Texas.
He's calling for the dissolution of the United States and the erection of hard borders between the currently existing states. There will be checkpoints. There will be.
Yeah, but the way to have power is to lessen power.
I want everything that Piano just said, but I want it to be just for Dave Rubin in a building somewhere. Not allowed to have the internet, so I never have to hear this bullshit again.
The United State of Rubin?
Yeah. Hell yeah.
Only high-level ideas allowed. You have to sign some documents in order to get in there and say that you'll vote for me.
Why won't anyone come to my country? I'm having so many high-level ideas.
I just want to talk.
I'm sure you could find an island in like the St. Lawrence where Dave Rubin and Andrew could live together, and we could just like erect a barrier around it to stop them from climbing out.
They interview themselves ad infinitum.
That colder climate just won't agree with me. I think we're going to have to come up with a better idea.
Build the wall.
Feed them like the raptor cages in Jurassic Park.
Don't worry, Dave. You can climb inside my beard and keep warm, eh?
Ooh, that's an idea.
That's one of the examples I was going to give is in Texas, Ted Cruz v. Beto O'Rourke, Robert O'Rourke. All of a sudden he's Hispanic when he's there. But that
nailed him.
I think shocked a few people how close that actually was. It wasn't that close, but it was close enough where you start to wonder if it's starting to shift in that direction. Now, when I think about people waking up to use
it looks like he was looking at a question
to these Democrat policies, you can look at cities like St. Louis or Baltimore, for example, Chicago, Detroit, where they've been run by Democrats for 30, 40, 50 years. I wonder at this point in 2020, do we still have people being red-pilled? Because a lot of the things I've seen in your interviews on that are people giving their story of when they were getting red-pilled, quote-unquote. I think Candace Owens is one of the most famous examples of people, changing their viewpoint a little bit. Do you think that's still going to happen? Do you think it's still happening? Or is everybody completely dug into their beliefs at this point?
Can we take a quick moment to acknowledge this, dig at Beto O'Rourke? Of suddenly Beto's Hispanic when it suits him. Bro, that's Ted Cruz. Ted Cruz is only Hispanic when it suits him. Ted Cruz says nothing about being Hispanic until he's down in the polls. What the hell?
Yeah. Ted Cruz is Canadian.
Yeah. And the Zodiac Killer.
His dad is the Zodiac Killer.
Oh, his dad is. Yeah. Sorry. Excuse me for getting my facts incorrect when in the presence of such factual giants. The irony of him posing the question of people changing their viewpoints on a dime to the gentleman he's posing the question to. The irony is so thick. I just wanted to put that out there.
The red pill language is so dated, it's so cringe. But we're gonna get into a discussion about some red pills. Are you ready? 2015 people of the internet.
Boy,
that's a good question because it's sort of an unknown answer. The best I can tell you is I know that more and more people are being red pilled still because I still get a tremendous amount of email and Twitter messages and Facebook messages from people saying, just yesterday I saw your interview with Larry Elder, and now that was my moment, and now I'm waking up. So I do think more and more people are waking up. But I would say, in these last 4 years, I don't know that we're going to have that again, meaning that there was so much red pilling. And regardless of the outcome of this election, the fact that Donald Trump, by running against the entire freaking machine, got probably 12 million more votes at least than he did last time. That tells you an awful lot of people were red-pilled. I mean, black female voting for a Republican candidate doubled. Black male voting for a Republican more than doubled. Gay support for a Republican more than doubled. There's a lot. The Latino support did extremely well. So there's a lot of interesting things here if you want to talk about red-pilling. What I am worried about, though, is that, as people sort of see the reality of Biden potentially becoming president now, it's like a lot of people could go from red-pilled, which is now I'm awake, to black-pilled, which is, well, now I'm just depressed about the whole thing and I don't want anything to do with the system.
Thank you for explaining pills to me, Andrew.
Can't. Oh my god, I can't wait till Dave Rubin is just giving people black pills. I don't have the will to live anymore. Isn't it depressing? They're trying to give us a minimal increase on some sort of healthcare reform.
Thank you for explaining 4chan terms from 2016 to me.
Oh god, I think they even mentioned.
Could you do it for longer, maybe in ASMR?
It's so. Even what he's saying, I mean, it's depressing that people are still being quote unquote red pilled by Rubin at this point. If what he's saying is true, I don't even know if what he's saying is true. But even the talk about somehow increasing his vote margins, that doesn't necessarily mean that they were convinced about a certain kind of politic. I mean, a lot of these people that the increased at the margins came a lot from white people in the suburbs who were motivated by a lot of racial resentment that sort of came out and voted for Trump this time that didn't last time. Especially when the racial resentment was pointed at black individuals as opposed to Hispanics like they were during 2016. This was from a report that I read recently as well. So at least that's what the research is indicating. So it's not like these people weren't already Republicans or Republican-leaning type racist assholes in the first place. They were just more motivated this time around and came out and voted.
We don't need that leftist research in here.
Yeah.
That's bias. That's some CNN weak sauce, Jody.
Yeah. How dare I appeal to research?
We know what it really is. You want to hear the truth? You ready to be red pilled?
Oh my god, red pill me so hard right now.
Get ready for some meta, because Dave's already given you the answer. Black people just realized Trump was right. That's it. All it's about. That's it.
Yeah. No, I'm red pilled now. I'm convinced. That's why I'm voting for Republican nonstop from now until the end of time. I think we got five minutes left of this terrible thing, so let's burn through it.
Well, just quickly,
okay.
I'd like to talk to you about the IQ question now. If we have,
No, we do not have time. Now that you've been red with this shit. Actually, we could talk about IQ in a second. Sadly, here we go.
Dave Rubin spending a lot of time blackpilling people on 4chan is what I'm picturing you on Saturday night.
Yeah. I've never been on 4chan. I don't even know what's going on there.
Neither have I, and people don't usually believe that.
Andrew. Look at that face is clearly the face of I've been on 4chan and posted some nasty ass shit. Don't tell my boss.
That is just the biggest self-own possible. If somebody told me I look like I went on 4chan a lot, I would literally kill myself.
Oh, that's the black pill. That's the real black pill. My God. Thank you, Andrew.
Yeah. What I wanted to ask you is, has anybody that you've interviewed really changed your mind on a topic? Have you come into an interview with an opinion on something and then maybe you haven't completely changed your mind up, but really had to sit and think about it?
Well, I mean, the famous one, of course, is when I first sat down with Larry Elder when I was a
This is what I was saying about his reimagining.
Just beat me over the head with facts about systemic racism, or I should say the myth of systemic racism. That one began my political awakening, in effect going from woke to awake. I would say there's other people over the years that have hugely influenced my way of thinking, but that probably was the one that really kind of cracked it. But, sitting down with Jordan Peterson, the amount of times that I have, and then of course also going on tour with the guy for a year and a half, he really helped me solidify my worldview And that's one of the great things about being an interviewer. It's like if you get the right people who are interesting and original and innovative to talk to, you better pick up on some of that. You better compare that to your worldview and hopefully help it or allow it to make you a better, more complete person, because otherwise what's the point of the job?
So I want to like just stop that last little bit for a second, because I think that's going to be very integral to what's going to come next. So I want to get back to it. But I also want to say this, like, whole talk about Larry Eldridge, I mean, he's like one of those like Thomas Sowell type figures, which is like this tokened black individual that says all the right-wing talking points that everyone wants to hear and is against any civil rights legislation whatsoever. And so all the conservatives love them, even though nothing they say is backed up by evidence at all. So that's what we're getting here. And he says that like he got owned by him and like went from being woke to awake or whatever. That's what he says now. He used to talk all the time about Sam Harris's appearance on Bill Maher when Sam Harris was confronted by Ben Affleck, where Ben Affleck basically called him an Islamophobe for speaking disparagingly of Muslims on Bill Maher's show. And that was what Dave used to push as his like move to the right story. That was his moment where he realized he was done. And that sort of like alienated him from the Young Turks and why he left the Young Turks and all that. According to him, that was the story he used to tell. But Sam Harris, I don't think really likes him anymore. And I think in one of his more recent videos, especially after Trump lost this past election, he came out saying he's distancing himself from the IDW and stuff like this, which like Dave Rubin and them all used to be a part of. So I feel like because of all these, and because Dave Rubin is now slowly starting to move to this like weird religious Dave Rubin, he now no longer uses that as his creation myth. It's now this Larry Eldridge story. But again, it's like, if you could just change your creation myth like that on a dime, like it tells me that like it really is just a narrative grift that he's doing here. Right? It's not coming from some like authentic, like I really changed my mind. What Eldridge said was so superior and I couldn't destroy it with facts and logic. So I had to change what I believed. And I just don't buy it. I don't know, do you guys buy it? Are you sold? The Rubin
No,
grift?
I take I listen to the people that actually worked with him and knew the situation, and that's how I understand it.
Yeah. So now getting back to the thing that he ended this segment on, which he basically claims like you want to watch people for like the good stuff because you want to come away enjoying their content. That's like his argument. It's like, I don't platform these people because I only platform these things because I want you to take something away. The reason why I have a Jordan Peterson on is so that you go away with the great content. You leave wanting to clean your room. You feel so empowered afterwards. Now watch how this changes in this next segment.
Now, when I was doing my Dave Rubin research, even though I'm pretty familiar with you, having watched you for a few years now, I wanted to get your opinion on some of the dreaded Wikipedia facts that are on there about you. If we can.
Oh God, I have no idea what's on there, but it's
you haven't looked.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I was on Wikipedia maybe a year ago. I looked.
He was on Wikipedia maybe a year ago. I just had to flag that. Like he hasn't looked up anything on Wikipedia since.
I don't do basic research for my topics. I just wing it. I see where it goes.
He doesn't even do preliminary research because obviously like his Wikipedia basic research, I don't know, but at least as a starting point, a jumping off point, you can figure something out. Research.
I just shoot from the hip in all of my interviews, and that's why my idol Larry King took a phone call about a Red Sox trade mid-interview.
Like I listened to it a few times to see like in what context he's kind of saying this, because part of me was like, is he saying that he only went on it once to like look up his name? But it sounds like he hasn't been to Wikipedia at all in a year, and when he was there, he did look up his name, but and didn't really care. But Andrew's going to continue with his question and ask him one question from his Wikipedia.
Okay,
There's some nonsense on there, but go for it.
This is right from Wikipedia. Critics have accused Rubin of providing a prominent platform to what they consider political extremists, and then it references Mary Uehara of GQ magazine. She says, well, Rubin frequently rails on identity politics, which he has called, quote, evil. He often invites some of the most toxic practitioners of pro-Trump white identity politics, like Paul Joseph Watson. Now, people do this to Joe Rogan, too, all the time, where just simply talking to somebody means that you endorse their views. I know they go on to mention other people, and they say Stefan Molyneux, just by having him on your show, you promoted white nationalism. Is this just a jealousy of this format working?
Yeah, it's just jealousy. It's just jealousy. That's all. Look, I
love that question too. Like, you go through all the preamble, all that bullshit, and then your question is like, is this just jealousy? Like,
well, like you said before, like you pointed out before when he said when I interviewed Jordan Peterson, I want you to leave that interview being empowered and wanting to clean your room or whatever. It's like, okay, well, what do you want when you interview someone like Paul Joseph Watson and Stefan Molyneux, who promote open white nationalism?
Which is why, like, the contrast of those two questions side by side, like, it's clear that Andrew is not skilled in this whatsoever. You know, because you would never place those questions side by side.
No.
But he's going to go on, well, first, and then he frames it as, like, is it just jealousy? Yes, yes. And, of course, Rubin's going to say yes to that. What is he going to say? Like, no, they have a factual reason for saying this, so therefore I can't argue against it. No, it's clearly they only point out this shit because of jealousy, but he's going to go on and explain it in more detail.
Talk to all of these people. I had Paul Joseph Watson on about 5 years ago. By the way, I'd be more than happy to have him on again. I've met him a couple other times privately. I had Molyneux on maybe 4 years ago. I thought I asked the right questions. You know, he's got this I guess you could call it a fascination with race and IQ. It's not something I really care about, but I saw he was somebody that was gaining traction online, and I'm an interviewer. So if I see someone that is gaining traction, there's some energy there, I think it's my job to talk to them and see what's what. I repeatedly asked him why he was fascinated with the race and IQ thing, which I thought was the right question. But, you know, if somebody says, if somebody says that I didn't do a good job, that's their opinion. That's fine. I thought I did a perfectly fine job, but nobody was hurt because of this. If anything, I got a lot of messages saying, you know, from people.
So, oh my God, this is the part where I'm going to play it again in a second. But, like, we have to, listen to what he said. I asked him why he was fascinated on a topic, and he thinks that's pushing back against him?
Yeah, like, you know, the only question that is reasonable to ask these idiots is, like, the Office quote, like, why are you the way that you are?
Yeah.
You know, like, you know, and then, like, to literally push back on everything they say because everything they say is abhorrent.
Especially when you say you had them on the show. Like, you have people on your show because you want to convince people, like, what they're saying and, like, change them and, like, do all these, like, empowering things. But you bring on the white nationalists on your show and then be like, oh, why are you fascinated in race and IQ? And then never push back on that? And he goes, and, like, yeah, people had criticisms of, like, how I did that. Well, yeah, because you platformed a white nationalist who believes in biological race and thinks that IQ is linked to your race biologically, and you didn't push back against him. You were just like, why are you interested in this topic? And then you posted on your fucking YouTube channel, like, Stefan Molyneux, race and IQ. And like, that was, like, the title of the video that you shoved up on your fucking website.
I've had this conversation with people close to me about this kind of thing, where it's like, who are of the opinion that, like, no, you have those discussions in a way where it'll be powerful because, like, everyone watching would reject that ideology and that person. And I'm like, yeah, most probably would, but there's people in the back that are taking notes.
And not while you have, like, a dude nodding his head while,
exactly,
like, passively listening to this.
Someone who's just, like, letting this person speak and dog whistle to everybody in attendance. Yeah, a lot of people will reject it, but a lot of other people are going to accept it as validation.
Now, I wanted to pause right before this point because he's going to talk about people who've responded to what they watched in the clip. Like watching the Stefan Molyneux thing. And it's clear that, and this is why I wanted to flag it beforehand, because I didn't want to watch it and then, like, reflect on it. It's clear to me that partway through this answer, he realizes he can't go in this direction and kind of, like, backtracks. And so watch this shit.
Yeah, look, if somebody says that I didn't do a good job, that's their opinion. That's fine.
I
thought
backed
I did
it up
a
a little
perfectly
bit,
fine
so
job, but nobody was hurt because of this. If anything, I got a lot of messages saying, you know, from people saying, I heard that Molyneux was this evil, whatever. I watched the interview, and it's like, I don't really like him, but whatever. I'm glad you chatted with him.
Did you catch that?
Think so.
The way he was going to say it, here, I'll freeze it again where exactly where it is. It's so subtle.
Time work. Just simply talking to somebody. Working.
Oh, did I?
It's just jealousy. It's just jealousy. That's all. Fascination with race, and I think it's my job to talk to them and see what's what. I repeatedly asked him why he was fascinated with the race and IQ thing, which I thought was the right question. But, you know, if somebody says, if somebody says that I didn't do a good job, that's their opinion. That's fine. I thought I did a perfectly fine job, but nobody was hurt because of this.
No one was
if anything,
hurt.
I got a lot of messages saying, you know, from people saying, I heard that Molyneux was this evil, whatever. I watched the interview, and it's like.
See, where do you think this is going? I heard everyone say that it was evil. I watched the show, and what do you think is supposed to come after that, right? I saw him.
He's actually not that bad.
And he's actually not that bad. But watch how he does not say that. He catches himself. Watch it.
Hurt because of this. If anything, I got a lot of messages saying, you know, from people saying, I heard that Molyneux was this evil, whatever. I watched the interview, and it's like, I don't really like him, but whatever. I'm glad you chatted with him. I get some of those. But yeah.
Where it's like he clearly knew he couldn't go down that line of reasoning, because then what he says is, oh, this person who was like this like secondhand person watched it and was converted into race IQ politics, and he realized that couldn't have been the correct response, so he had to backtrack it to be like, oh, and I still don't agree with him, but I'm glad you had him on your show.
He didn't even backtrack it that well. He still basically said, like, you know, I don't really agree with him, but he seems okay. Like, you're still being the soft enter into alt-right bullshit, Dave.
Yeah.
Come on. You know you were doing it, too. That's the worst fucking part. You know you are the gateway to these horrific ideas based in nothing but bigotry and racism and oppression, and yet you still do it. Why do you do it? Because you want a comfortable living. You slimy.
Yeah.
Elrond, they're only ideas.
Yeah.
Shut the fuck up, David. Shut the fuck up.
And he's going to get into the research that shows that he was the gateway to that, I think, like right now too. So
this is one of the things where if you're thought of as on the right, they constantly want you to police who you're allowed to talk to. But on the left, there's no rules. You could, you know, have lunch with Farrakhan and then
that's us.
You know, sit down with Bernie Sanders the next day and you're good to go.
Farrakhan and Bernie Sanders.
Kind of do this revolving door where they just reference each other. I found this years
oh
ago
my God.
doing YouTube videos, and I'd research somebody who they would call alt-right or a part of the intellectual dark web in a negative connotation, and then you read their articles, and Slate would reference Vox, and Vox would reference Wikipedia, and then they go in this circle where they verify each other and turn something that's usually innocuous. I'm sure you've seen that mind map of Dave Rubin leads to Jordan Peterson, and Jordan Peterson. I've only been mentioned on one of those things, by the way. I'm very jealous. So I feel like these outlets.
Oh my God, Andrew, you try so hard. You try so hard to be loved. I just wanted to take a moment to appreciate that.
I hope Rebel fires him.
Oh.
Like
I hope they keep him on, so their ratings just continue to. Blah, 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 blah. Oh.
Like he sees the Faith Goldie path as something to aspire to.
Like, or the Dave Rubin. He wants to be Dave Rubin, which is why this is like a Dave Rubin-esque show, and Dave Rubin is his first guest. That's so fucking weird.
Are using themselves to justify who they do and do not allow to speak. Do you think that's a fair assessment?
Yes. I'll even go further than that. What they do is they use these ridiculous studies to then prove. So they get some journalist to literally what you're referencing there. I forget exactly what it was called, but it was some journalist who just all she did was in effect put lines to people that had talked to other people. Yeah. So I'm in there, and Rubin's talked to Shapiro, and Shapiro talked to Peterson, and Peterson talked to this guy, and this is Shermer, and Rogan, and then she, as if it's proving anything other than people talk to people. The funny thing is that when they did that study, that was then, you know, which by the way had several errors, even in related to who I had talked to. The whole idea was, and you can see that what this does is, this crazy cacophony of lines, what it does is it radicalizes people to the right. Except I have gotten more email from people that have been de-radicalized by me. I have gotten, for the amount of emails that I get from lefties that have woken up, right now say that they're centrist or something, I get an equal amount of emails from people that used to say, I was further right, but I've now accepted that there are some good liberal ideas because of you. So these are people who just want to destroy people that are gaining traction and attention. I try not to pay that much attention to them.
So I love Ryan asks, what are the errors, Dave? and hello, Paige.
You're not supposed to ask that question.
Yeah. Now I want to get to you in a second, Elron, because I have a feeling that you, like, he was putting a lot of scare quotes about this being an actual study and about it just being journalists and stuff, and I feel like you know a little more. It's okay if you don't.
You feel like I have the report pulled up, don't you? You feel it right now.
But the last thing I wanted to say, oh shit, I forget like how. No, I can't remember how it went, and I forgot what I was going to add there. But I'll just let you go then and tell us why David was wrong about all this, and then I'll see if I can remember what I was going to say.
Like, he is just wrong. Like, we understand, right? I mean, the report was written by Rebecca Lewis, who's a PhD student in communications. Like, she's not a journalist. She's getting a graduate degree. The actual, like, the way that you do this sort of graph theoretical analysis is you make an association matrix based off of data, right? An association matrix is just a fancy way of saying you do a bunch of correlations between what we call nodes. In this case, nodes are people on the graph. Yeah. And the edges represent the strength of that connection. And so it's not just that, like, people talk to one another, right? What she did was she watched, like, all of these 81 channels, these 65 influencers, and then she gathered YouTube metadata based on subscriber counts and viewership habits of that, right? And so it's not that, oh, this person's talked to that. It's, no, this person directly shares subscribers and viewership with this other person, right? And so that's the strength of the association. And so when people say, like, oh, it's just that Dave Rubin talks to Jordan Peterson, it's like, no, it's that the people that watch Dave Rubin go on to watch Bake Alaska. They go on to watch Six Hex and Hamper. They go on to watch Richard Spencer. Yeah. That's the entire point of this sort of analysis, is by very definition of, like, the way YouTube's algorithms, especially were working back a couple of years ago, if you watch one of these people, because other people then have this habit, you then get recommended this other habit. And that was the big fear about it.
Right, and that's why they call it, like, the alt-right pipeline, right? Because, and then it's like this shared, like, subscriber base. Like, there's a reason why the same person who would be watching Baked Alaska's content is watching Dave Rubin and is subscribed to both of them. And they're not subscribed to, like, I don't know, Vox or, like, whatever the liberal media platform is of the day, right? There's a reason for those associations, which I imagine you could do a similar thing with, like, quote-unquote BreadTube today and find some sort of overlap with the people who subscribe to, like, ContraPoints also subscribes to H-Bomber Guy or some stupid shit like that.
I just wanted to ask Elrond if if Rebecca Lewis, who the author of that study, her PhD, is it comparable at all to what Andrew here has from the Durham College that whatever he got? Like, what's the equivalent certification?
What's Andrew's degree? Is that
PR?
PR. Yeah. Oh,
yes. That's right.
How do I put this? No.
Yeah. So I
absolutely fucking not.
I remember
again, like, just very quick. She's probably Dr. Lewis now, or at least close to that. She's at Stanford. She's not a dumb person.
No, I think she does have a doctorate now. By the time,
Dr. Lewis is not just some journalist. She is a well-educated pedigree.
I feel like she went on the podcast I Don't Speak German, which is a good anti-fascist podcast for any of those who are interested. I'm pretty sure she did. But the thing that I wanted to say that I forgot before was this whole claim that, like, Dave Rubin receives emails from people saying that they left the right and became more, like, moderate conservatives or some bullshit. This was, like, a similar tack that Jordan Peterson would do all the time to explain why, like, I'm not a fascist. Like, look, I've brought people into the center. And most of that's just a bunch of shit, because, like, at the end of the day, like, what even Jordan Peterson is saying is pretty, like, far right, and what Dave Rubin is saying is pretty far right libertarian shit. Like, this isn't your casual conservatism, you know. But we're at the end here pretty much. We're just gonna close it off. It should be, I think it's less than a minute here, so.
Well, I think the opposite is completely true in terms of, like, I don't even like saying radicalization,
I'm
but
bored.
when you say it's okay to hate anyone who supports the president for 5 years, and you excuse riots and you excuse their lack of social distancing at their events and don't excuse it somewhere else, you do end up with this, albeit a small population of people who thinks that we are in sainthood, there's nothing we can do that's wrong, and on the other side, anything we do to them is justified because they're white supremacists or whatever, and I think we see that all the time now. Now, I appreciate your time. I'm going to let you go on the last thing. I want to talk to you about locals.
Is that the worst thing they said about me on Wikipedia? I thought you were going to bust out something really juicy there.
No, that's under your the headline header of controversies. They're going to say it Britishly, controversies. But that's under the headline of controversies is a GQ quote of from this lady that I've never heard of. Surprise, surprise. Now, do you want to tell us a bit about locals for the people who aren't that familiar with it?
So here's the thing. I'm not going to play the rest of this clip. But what he gives Dave Rubin, he gives him the floor to pitch a fucking product. And so the whole reason Dave is on this fucking show is to pitch something. That's
Yeah, given the trajectory of his show, I absolutely understand. Or maybe not his show so much as he himself, but yeah, I can understand.
And we're not going to watch the pitch, but Jesus fucking Christ, this
Please
whole
don't.
thing just for a fucking pitch. That's all this was.
Do you think that Andrew and David had like a little conversation about like what the interview was going to be like before this happened, or like how much prep work do you think went into this? Or was it just like, okay, Zoom call, and then we're just going to talk and record a video?
I feel like the latter, because if it was the former, I mean, for one, like, Dave Rubin would have coached him out of, like, some of the order, like, how the questions, and you can tell he, like, fucked his way through, like, half those questions. Like, it almost feels like they didn't know where they were going, and then he just magically landed somewhere. So I really don't think this was like planned at all. It was just like, hey, it's my first show. Can you come on to like help me out? And in return, I'll allow you to pitch your new product. That is my guess of what happened here.
Yeah, I think the conversation was basically, hey, I'll let you ask me a bunch of questions if you let me pitch this locals thing. And then Andrew went like, beep boop, I got the scope.
Yeah. Beep boop. Yep. So that's it. That's all I want to cover. I went a little bit over, maybe 10 minutes over from where I wanted to land with this, but we did it. We finished it. We got to the end. Well, the important end. I really don't want to listen to Dave Rubin's friggin' product. But this is a perfect opportunity for me to pitch my own product. You know, I should actually start throwing this up at like maybe the beginning of the stream rather than at the end, but I'm bad at chilling for myself, so there it is. But if you like what we do, you can donate on Patreon. If you donate at the $10 or above level, you can join us on voice chat with Ken, Viano, and Elrond, who are in here today. So that's it. I guess, I could throw that in the chat too, for posterity's sake, for the week and a half or something that Twitch leaves it up on their streaming service. And that's it. I gotta go because I'm actually rushing off to another interview. It's not quite an interview. I'm gonna have a discussion with someone who actually got sort of like popular off of Dave Rubin. They paid $100 to get Dave Rubin to say Sam Cedar on the show, on Dave Rubin's show, and then that was the one where Dave Rubin refused to say it and went rah, 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 rah.
I was about to say that was the genesis of the
Yeah. So yes, I'm going to be discussing issues around defund the police with Logic Guy, and I don't know. I'll see how that turns out afterwards. It's framed as like a quasi debate, but I don't even know fully what we disagree with. So gonna find out everything once this is done. So and then when that's out, I'll let everyone know. So say goodbye, everyone, and say it all at once, so it's a big mess.
Bye.
Thanks for listening, everybody.
Elron, I didn't hear your voice in the cacophony of sounds. Elron's
Good
dead.
luck.
Okay.
Good luck and good night. Good luck and good night.
Goodbye.
Good night.
Actually, I almost forgot. Okay, we're gonna raid Claire because that's the first that I saw.
Ooh, raiding. That sounds like a good idea.
Oh, you get the infinite time loop from where I'm at too.
I wonder how much I overused this joke during this stream.
Well, that was like why I got inspired to do it as well. Well, that and like there was so much content there that I thought was worth going over. But anyways, we're raiding now.
Yeah.
Enjoy yourselves. Thank you for watching my stream, and we'll see you next week. Goodbye.
Bye.
Yeah.
I think we have successfully raided.
Hey, thank you for the raid. I hope you had a good stream, Jody. Oh my god, the Azexacy Jason Unruh debate. Oh my god. I need it. I need this in my life more than I've ever needed anything. Why does it say I've already had it open?
Oh, did I not?